I didn't hear the first crash. I felt it through the soles of my boots, through the kitchen counter under my hands, right into my teeth. By the time the second hit came, a deep metallic groan followed by the crack of splintering wood, I was already running. My front porch came into view just in time to see the yellow arm of a backhoe slicing into my living room wall like a can opener through cheap aluminum. A wave of drywall dust spilled into the sunlight. And standing there, feet planted on my driveway like a conquering general, was Karen, HOA president, self-appointed queen of the cul-de-sac. Her hands were on her hips, a clipboard tucked under one elbow, and she was smiling. Actually smiling while my homemy home was being torn apart behind her. "You're trespassing on HOA-controlled property," she called out over the roar of the engine, her voice shrill enough to pierce the mechanical noise. "We're removing the structure in accordance with Bylaw 28. My boots hit the gravel hard as I crossed to her, my badge still clipped to my belt from the early morning shift I just finished. "Karen," I said, and even I could hear the edge in my voice. "This is my private property. You have no legal right." She cut me off with a wave of her clipboard. "You stopped paying the HOA's structural compliance fee. 3 months delinquent. The board voted unanimously for removal. I warned you in the last notice." "What notice?" I snapped. "I checked my mailbox yesterday. Nothing." She smirked. "Oh, maybe it got lost. But that's not my problem." That was the moment my pulse stopped pounding with shock and settled into a cold, deliberate rhythm. I'd spent years on the force. I knew the law better than she ever could. And I had a very particular set of tools at my disposal, tools she wasn't going to see coming. I didn't yell. I didn't shove. I just stepped back and tapped my comms. "Dispatch, this is Reynolds. I'm activating my Bodycam for a property damage report." The tiny green light blinked on my chest. Karen noticed it and tried to mask the flicker of unease with a laugh. "Oh, please. You think recording me will change the board's authority?" That's when I heard the low hum above us. My drone, pre-programmed for perimeter sweeps when I'm on patrol, had already picked up the comms activation signal. It hovered overhead, camera lenses swiveling, catching the whole scene from the perfect angle. Backhoe tearing down walls. Karen directing the operator with hand signals. Her clipboard snapping up to cover her face when she realized she was being filmed from the air. "What are you doing?" she barked, her bravado cracking. "Documenting a felony," I said evenly. "Criminal trespass. Property destruction. Fraud. If the board approved this without due process." Her face flushed an angry red. "You can't threaten me, officer. I'm in charge here." I pulled my phone from my pocket and started dialing. Not for long. By the time the county sheriff's cruiser rolled up, a small crowd of neighbors had gathered, phones out, whispering, pointing at the mess where my front wall used to be. The backhoe idled awkwardly, its operator looking anywhere but at me. Karen tried to intercept the deputies, waving her clipboard like a shield. "She's been damaging this property without a court order," I told them, holding up my own document, one she'd clearly never seen before. A property protection injunction I'd secured months ago when Karen first started threatening enforcement actions. It bore the judge's signature and an explicit warning that any unauthorized interference would be subject to criminal penalties. The deputy's brow furrowed as he read it, then turned to her. "Ma'am, is your name Karen Mitchell?" "Yes," she said, trying to keep her tone steady. "You're under arrest for violation of a standing court order, criminal property destruction, and trespassing." The gasp from the crowd was sharp. Karen's mouth dropped open like a door on a busted hinge. "This is insane. You can't." But they could. And they did. Cuffed her right there on my driveway, the clipboard clattering to the ground. I didn't even have to say a word. The drone and bodycam footage would do all the talking in court. She twisted to glare at me as they led her away. "You'll regret this." I almost smiled. "No, Karen. You will." I knew it wasn't over yet. She'd fight, throw money at lawyers, maybe even rally whatever board loyalists she had left. But what she didn't know and what I was about to unleash was going to bury her HOA empire for good. The day after her arrest, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Neighbors I hadn't spoken to in months were suddenly checking in. But I could hear the curiosity under their concern. A few were bold enough to ask if I'd really had Karen arrested, and when I confirmed it, some of them actually laughed, not because the situation was funny, but because for years, she had made life in this neighborhood a slow, grinding misery. Now, someone had finally stood up to her with more than just a complaint. But what Karen didn't know was that her arrest was just the opening act. The footage from my Bodycam and drone wasn't just gold for the county prosecutor, it was dynamite for a federal case. I'd already forwarded copies to the state attorney general's office, along with the HOA's suspicious financial records I'd been quietly gathering for months. Those records showed thousands of dollars funneled into maintenance projects that never happened, and legal fees paid to a law firm that didn't exist. 3 days later, an unmarked black SUV rolled into my driveway. Out stepped Special Agent Monica Hughes from the FBI's Public Corruption Unit. She flashed her badge and got right to the point. "We believe your HOA president is part of a larger network embezzling funds from multiple homeowner associations in the county. Your evidence just connected the dots." I'd been in law enforcement long enough to know what that meant. We weren't talking about petty fines or overzealous rule enforcement anymore. We were talking RIC or racketeering charges that could take down more than just Karen. The FBI set up a sting, and I agreed to play my part. They wanted Karen to think she had a shot at reclaiming her position after her initial court appearance, so they let her make bail. The very next day, she was back in the neighborhood, strutting around like she still owned the place, telling anyone who'd listen that her illegal arrest would be thrown out. She didn't know that every conversation was being recorded by undercover agents posing as sympathetic neighbors. When her trial date came, the courtroom was packed. My footage played first her ordering the backhoe operator to take it down to the studs, her sneer as she called my home HOA-controlled property, her shrug when I mentioned the missing notice. Then came the paper trail. Bank transfers to shell accounts, fake invoices, HOA board meeting minutes that had been falsified to approve projects no one in the neighborhood had ever seen. Her lawyer tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, a clerical error, even an overreach of HOA authority. But the moment the prosecutor dropped the RICO charges on the table, the air in the room changed. This wasn't just about my house anymore. It was about a county-wide scam that had siphoned hundreds of thousands from homeowners. The final nail came from an unexpected witness, Karen's own former vice president, a man named Dale who'd been pushed out of the board months earlier. He walked in, pale but resolute, and testified under oath that Karen had personally threatened him to keep quiet about the missing funds. "She told me if I talked, she'd have the HOA condemn my house," he said, his voice shaking. "And I believed her because she's done it before." By the time the verdict came, no one was surprised. Guilty on all counts: fraud, embezzlement, criminal property destruction, and racketeering. The judge sentenced her to 12 years in state prison, banned her from serving on any housing-related board for life, and ordered restitution to every homeowner she'd targeted. The day they took her away in shackles, I went back to my half-demolished house. It would take months to rebuild, but that afternoon, I stood in the ruins with my drone hovering above and a fishing pole in my hand. I wasn't just getting my home back, I was getting my peace back. And the neighborhood? Transformed. Without Karen's shadow looming over them, people started talking to each other again. We held our first block party in years. Kids rode their bikes without worrying about violations. The new HOA board, elected by actual votes, put every financial document online for transparency. I didn't run for the board. I didn't need to. My job had always been about enforcing the law, and in this case, the law had spoken loud and clear. Some folks still ask me if it was worth it, if going to war with Karen was worth the stress, the damage, the months of legal wrangling. My answer is always the same. When someone abuses their power, you either let them keep it or you take it away. And sometimes you have to take it away so thoroughly that they never get the chance to abuse it again. So, what do you think? Was I right to let her dig her own grave before I lowered the boom? Or should I have shut her down the moment she crossed the line?